In the previous step of the infection cycle, we identified the body fluids that pathogens use to move. However, to spread to the next person, there must be a mode of transmission, the specific physical method by which the microorganism travels. Understanding these modes is critical for breaking the infection cycle. Modes of transmission refer to the pathways or mechanisms that microorganisms use to transfer from one host to another. These pathways are categorized with very specific terminology to help healthcare professionals identify and address how infections spread. Let's explore these terms and how they relate to real-world scenarios. Direct contact transmission occurs when the infection is spread through direct physical interaction with the infected person. This can include skin-to-skin contact, such as shaking hands, sexual contact, or kissing. In these cases, the pathogen is passed from one person to another without the involvement of an intermediary object or surface. Droplet spread occurs when droplets containing pathogens are expelled into the air through actions like sneezing, coughing, or talking. These droplets can travel varying distances before settling on surfaces or being inhaled by another person. While the exact range of droplet spread is debated, studies suggest it typically falls between 3 feet and 9 feet, depending on factors such as the force of the expulsion, the size of the droplets, and environmental conditions like airflow. Exudate refers to a fluid that escapes from the body, such as pus. This fluid often results from inflammation or infection and can contain pathogens, making it highly infectious to anyone who comes into contact with it. There are several ways diseases can spread through indirect transmission, meaning you don't have to touch the person who is sick or come into contact with their droplets directly. These include: airborne transmission occurs when a pathogen becomes suspended in the air, often originating from a sick person coughing, sneezing, or even talking. The particles involved in airborne transmission are typically very small, allowing them to stay suspended in the air for extended periods. These tiny particles can travel significant distances, often more than 6 feet, with some studies suggesting they can travel up to 26 feet. In enclosed spaces, they can even move through air ducts, potentially spreading infections throughout homes or offices. Vehicle transmission is another form of indirect transmission, where diseases spread through contaminated objects or substances. This includes pathogens spread via food, water, or biological products, such as blood. A fomite is a key example of vehicle transmission. It refers to any inanimate object that can carry pathogens from one person to another. Examples of fomites include medical tools, furniture, like a table or chair that a patient sat on, or even a tissue used by a patient to sneeze into. A vector is another method of indirect transmission, involving organisms like insects or arthropods that carry and spread disease. Common vectors include mosquitoes, ticks, and fleas. These creatures become infected by feeding on the blood of an infected host. Once infected, they can transmit the disease to another person or animal through their bite, acting as a vehicle for the pathogen. How do we prevent the transmission of disease? Handwashing is one of the most effective ways to prevent the spread of disease. By thoroughly washing your hands with soap and water, you remove dirt, bacteria, viruses, and other pathogens that can cause illness. Using clean techniques in the medical office and asepsis during surgical procedures is extremely effective in preventing the spread of infection. Clean techniques involve practices like disinfecting surfaces, using sterile equipment, and following proper hand hygiene to minimize contamination. In surgical settings, asepsis ensures that the area and tools used are free from harmful microorganisms. By maintaining strict cleanliness and sterility, healthcare providers can significantly reduce the risk of infection during medical procedures, safeguarding both patients and staff. The use of PPE or personal protective equipment is critical in preventing the spread of infection. PPE consists of items worn to create a barrier between you and the patient, such as gloves, gowns, goggles, hair coverage, and masks. These protective items help prevent pathogens from coming into contact with your skin or entering your body, reducing the risk of infection. Always ensure that you properly put on and use PPE whenever you're in contact with patients or potentially contaminated environments. What PPE should you wear with a patient? The first level of protection is known as standard precautions, which means we treat every patient as though they may have an infectious disease. With all patients, you should wear gloves and practice hand washing before and after any patient procedures. For contact spread diseases, in addition to gloves and hand washing, you should wear a gown and any additional protective clothing to cover areas of your body that may come into contact with the patient's skin. For droplet spread diseases, you'll want to wear gloves, a gown, and a mask to prevent respiratory droplets from entering your airway. Goggles may also be useful to protect your eyes from exposure. It's also crucial to maintain physical distance from the patient whenever possible, and to ensure that both you and the patient are wearing masks to reduce the risk of transmission. These measures work together to create multiple barriers, minimizing the chances of the pathogen spreading. When working around exudate, proper precautions, such as wearing gloves and practicing good hygiene, are essential when dealing with exudate to prevent the spread of infection. For airborne diseases, you will wear gloves, a gown, goggles, and an N95 mask or better. N95 masks provide a better seal around the face, offering more protection than a generic mask, and preventing infection from entering the body. To reduce the risk of vector-borne diseases, it's important to prevent bites by using protective measures like insect repellent. For food and waterborne illnesses, following proper food preparation practices, ensuring clean water sources, and hand washing are essential to minimizing the spread of these pathogens.